Good afternoon. Welcome to our coffee chat today with Pastor Gary and Pastor Kristina. We are here at Glen Cary Lutheran Church, and we are on our last week talking about the book of Proverbs, and I gotta say, I'm pretty happy about it.
How come you're happy? You don't like Proverbs? You don't like wisdom stuff?
I think it's been interesting, but I think I'm ready to move on to something more interesting. If that makes sense.
Well, it does, except for we get 2 weeks of wisdom literature that's pessimistic about life. The Ecclesiastes, you're more excited about vanity, vanity, all is vanity. That's his wisdom.
You know, it gives us, more, exciting things to talk about, his pessimism.
Yeah, it's of this era of...
Yes, it is.
Of looking. Let's read today's, this is Proverbs chapter 10, and it's basic to a whole series here in which there's just kind of generic themes about wise ways of living. So this is Proverbs 10. It's probably written by King Solomon. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother. Ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value, but righteousness delivers from death. The Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but he thwarts the cravings of the wicked. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. He who gathers crops in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. Blessings crown the head of the righteous, but violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. The name of the righteous is used in blessings, but the name of the wicked will rot. The wise in heart accept commands, but a chattering fool comes to ruin. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Whoever winks maliciously causes grief, and a chattering fool comes to ruin. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers all wrongs. Here endeth the reasoning on wisdom, wisdom. If you do this, you're wise. If you don't do it, it's foolish. Is it that simple?
No.
No, it's not. Where do you want to go with this?
One of the things that I appreciate about Proverbs is how it talks about our language and our words. Out of the mouth can come wisdom, or out of the mouth can come poison. And it mentions that again in this reading. I think it's important now more than ever to be mindful of what we are putting out into the world, whether it's on social media, whether it's sort of coffee time gossiping. Are we putting out negative, hurtful things, or are we putting out life-giving things?
Wisdom always seems to come from the person who's patient, who, when there's a conflict, there's a conversation about, when I'm in groups and people are trying to discern something, the first person to come out with something usually sets the stage, and I always, seems to me the grain of truth that is deeper and richer comes not being reactive right away to whatever the issue is. So that's one of my experiences with patience, or with wisdom. Comes from those who seem to be able to look at several different angles of something and then speak a word that's not just generic, but is much more holistic. One of the things about the language of wisdom in Proverbs is it's dualistic in some ways. It recognizes, it's a Lutheran way of understanding life, right? We are both saint and sinner, law and gospel. And these dichotomies are set up in wisdom language. The wise person does this, the foolish person does that. The lazy child sleeps all summer. The prudent one and the wise one gets up and helps with the harvest. But sometimes, and this is where Ecclesiastes is coming in next, sometimes you can work your neck off, you can work your fingers to the bone, and what do you get? Bony fingers. You can spend your entire life busting a gut and lose it all in some natural disaster. And then a person has to look at, why did I spend my entire life working myself only to gamble it away or do something foolish with that? The thing I like about Proverbs here is that the truth is it lays out these dichotomies, and yet the wise person recognizes none of these statements about what makes a wise person are definitive, right? None of them are, this is the end-all be-all. There's always an exception to the rules.
There is, and I think even Jesus used that in his own teachings. We talked earlier today about the parable of the prodigal son, where the older son gets up and works hard, whereas the younger son kind of squanders his life away. And in that story, Jesus elevates the son who is lazy, which seems to violate what this proverb says.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that actual parable recently, and what's kind of cool is you can find the foundations of that parable in the Proverbs. He's using it in this example of the foolish kid sleeps during the harvest. He's a disgraceful son, but the wise son gets up and does the work. That parable, I think, connects with the themes right now of our culture of Black Lives Matter. And what this is about, and you find it in the parable of the lost sheep, right? That there's one sheep who wanders away and the other remain behind, and he goes and finds that one. The point is, the reason we don't simply just say all lives matter, but it's so credible to recognize this is the group that's hurting right now, like the one sheep that's away. And in the prodigal son story, which finds its root in this, it's this boy who was once dead, the dad says. Now he's alive, and he says that to the righteous brother who stayed home. And the lesson is really for him. Son, you don't get to just say, I matter, all lives matter. Your brother was dead, and now it's time to celebrate. And you may find yourself in that situation at some point for whatever reason, and you can fully understand that I will be in the trenches there with you. Mm-hmm. Which is a great parable about wisdom, isn't it? It's not just about righteousness here, because the oldest brother, is righteous, but dad is saying, I need you also to be wise. I need you to see the big picture of this. And we don't want to lose your brother. And yeah, it can be angering that he lost money, but that parable really gets into the heart of wisdom. Almost takes one step beyond self-righteousness. It takes you into the arena there is more to the story than what we see.
So it's almost like wisdom is knowing when to extend grace instead of judgment.
Yeah, I think so. Let's leave it with, say that again, and then we're going to leave all of our teachings on wisdom with that insight. Wisdom is what again?
Wisdom is knowing when to extend grace instead of judgment. I just made that up.
I know, it's good. Put that on your seminary application. We're going to end with that. That wisdom is the gift to be able to bring grace to people, and we'll extend that to grace and forgiveness and healing, and when to avoid unnecessary righteousness, self-righteousness, and judgment. I like it. With those final thoughts, we'll see you on Sunday as we gather here at Glen Carey. I invite you all who are listening to this and did not see Sunday's worship to go check out Sunday's worship. You can fast forward a little bit and get to the section in which you are introduced to a family. The Han family, is it their name?
I don't remember.
I forget too.
I think.
Folks that this congregation sponsored back in the late 70s, working with Lutheran Social Services, Vietnamese refugees who this congregation took on great ministry to resettle them. The daughter, who was 2 or 3 at the time, now is in her 40s, and she speaks, and she's elegant and articulate, and it's very moving to hear about that, not just to recognize their story, but to reclaim again as a church that this approach to the world is not new to us. If we begin to talk about care for the poor and refugee ministry and concern for immigrations, and there's a cultural disdain for that right now on some level, that's not who we are. We have never been that. LSS and Lutheran Refugee Ministry and Services have been around for a long time, and would it that soon we could get back to welcoming people like this family that you can hear about on Sunday. Till then, we'll see you Sunday or next Wednesday from Glen Cary Lutheran Church. See you.